We do have a rock star coming up, man. We've had a whole bunch of rock stars coming up.
It's
So
amazing.
this guy, with over 70 years in the collision industry,
At least.
Ron Kuehn has developed many of the tools and processes that we use to teach our clients here at my company, Elite. I owe a lot to this man. Several years ago, Ron, myself, and our Welsh business partner, Neil Pardavies, entered into business together to create the industry's finest KPI reporting solution called the Body Shop Toolbox. You should check it out. Ron is also the owner of Collision Business Solutions, where he helps shops find simple solutions to complex problems. Today, he's going to help y'all make a lot more money. My dear friend, mentor, business partner, Ron Kuehn.
Woo! Welcome, Ron.
Hey, buddy.
So let's start with 70 years in the cleaning industry. That's a while.
Yeah, I don't know where he got that one.
That's a surprise to you.
We pulled it right off of your bio.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, and those things never lie.
That's it.
So the last couple of years have been really fascinating to watch. Shops are busier than ever, and yet many of them suffered financially, didn't they? Their cash flow sucked. Ron's another guy that I just we're just going to wind him up and let him go for the next 12 minutes. Talk to us about what are the opportunities for shops to become more profitable, because there's a lot of opportunity for that. And
yeah, well, first of all, guys, thanks for allowing me to come in here and geez, I see a lot of faces that I recognize, and Charlie and Randy and as I've kind of scrolled through, so it's kind of nice to know that a lot of us are still breathing and kicking, even if we've been in the industry longer than we've been alive.
That's right.
Yes. What I want to really kind of cover today is from my perspective. This is some of the best times financially in this industry that for all of the years I've been around.
Oh, good.
Now, I'll preface that when you say there's been some people that have suffered, there has. But the reality is 90% of the shops across the country right now have had sales that were up from the previous year. Now, that could have been from increases in labor rates. It could have been from parts price increases, et cetera. But thinking back and listening to all this, I go back to, for those of you that I haven't met before, I have been around a while. That's why my whiskers are all white. But I ran operations back in the early 90s and through most of the 90s for ICAR in the West. I oversaw 15 states. And so that was where DRPs came about. And I remember the very first meeting with guys like Eric Bickett and Daryl Millad and Al Astorga and some names that some of you might remember. And a number of the insurance industry talking about how DRPs were going to become prevalent and cycle time was going to be a major issue. Why did I bring that up? Because it changed some things, but it also brought a lot of greed with it. I rolled out the first steel welding program for ICAR across North America. The welding was terrible on unibodies. And when that whole reason that ICAR got started was because of unibodies. And so there were a lot of people doing a lot of things they shouldn't have done that wasn't safe. But over time, things took place. When we first did the welding test, the average failure rate for people taking that test was over 80%.
Woo!
And I would get my butt chewed every Monday morning from people that, number one, didn't practice, and number two, it had to be the fault of something else other than their people. When I could look at some of these technicians, they couldn't see through their bifocals because they were so pitted up with grinder pits. Turning their head to weld was a common process back in those days. So why is all that important? Because we need to change and we need to do things the right way. And if we're doing things the right way, there's profitability that comes with that. But we have to break old habits. Since that invention or introduction of DRPs, everybody has been trying to zoom in to get as much work as they possibly could because there was more capacity than the amount of cars that we have out there. When you lose 35% of the industry's technicians during the pandemic, things have flipped 100%, 180 degrees. Okay. All of a sudden now we have less capacity for the amount of cars. The problem is a lot of people still have the mentality that they want to fix everything. Now, first of all, we've been hearing now for pretty much all day long of how important it is to have the training, the tools, the understanding of what you're supposed to do. Okay. But secondly, I try to appeal a little bit to the greed, because my grandfather told me one time, don't get in this for the money, but don't forget that's how they keep score.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if we're doing that, one of the things that either has been, and I've give that 90%, I've read some stuff, I've talked to some people, but when in my 20 groups that I facilitate, or the shops that I work with on the M&A to either help them acquire or to sell, okay, it puts me in an area to where I get to see a lot of financials and I get to coach a lot of people. And for the last 18 months or so with our 20 groups, I have been kind of beating a drum of get over 50% gross profit.
Mm.
And the reality is set a net profit target. Unless you, I'm just going to go out there because it's a little bit high for some people. It's almost unreachable. But let's say it's 20%. If I'm going to make 50% gross profit and I want to make 20, then my overhead's going to be 30.
Yep.
If I want to be 15 and I get to 50, then my overhead's going to be 35. There's going to be some things that I'm going to be able to control in that back and forth, but it really is that simple. But when you stand back and you look and say, how do I go on this journey to be able to get there? The first thing that I did was created a tool like David talked about. I like to build those where I can grab information from a management system. And it's pretty cool when you start looking at the gross profit by manufacturer. And then you look and see how many somebody repaired, and they repaired a Land Rover and they did 5 of them and they made like 33% gross profit. And I know darn well that they weren't certified to fix those Land Rovers, but they saw it. They saw the accident, they saw the dollars, and they are programmed to where we fix everything but a broken heart in this industry.
I love that.
All right? We can break everything, even an anvil, but we're going to fix everything but a broken heart. We have to quit being so greedy, number one. Number two, if I know what I'm better at or what I should be fixing, and I know what's most profitable, okay, that allows me, if I'm not as profitable as I need to be, it allows me to make some adjustments and start to work towards that, okay? But I always have to have in mind that I want to put that customer back in a car and do something the way it's supposed to be done. So when we get wrapped around the axle with people that are eating deductibles or people that don't have a spray booth that should be, the fire department should shut them down or anything else. I've been in this industry a long time, and that's been going on since the day I got into it. And some of that still exists, but it continues to move forward, just like those welds that I see in cars when I go walking through there today. Okay. I thought when I was rolling out the welding program that I was going to set up my legacy in the industry and that was going to be something. Hell, they won't even be using resistance spot welders pretty soon. They're all glued together. And so, I outlived my whole dream of basically leaving a mark. But the true part of it is when you start to look and see how really good technicians are taking vehicles apart, how they're putting them back together, that have the skill, that have the training and work in a culture. And you talked about culture earlier, so I'm just trying to cover a lot of different things in here. The best way to attract good technicians is to have number one, have a good culture where the best technicians are fixing cars correctly, because that's what they want. And many people talk about it, and then they go out and ask their people to do things ridiculous as far as what should be done and what wasn't. The second thing is estimatics. If you're not using OE information and you're not documenting and trying to get charged for every single thing that you can, that's the best retention tool for a technician you can have. Or if you can get them in your door, show them some sheets, let them walk around and look at the car saying, are you getting compensated this way? And again, I'm talking about a flat rate type of an environment, but that's still, even hourly, is going to reflect back on what that hourly wage can be. If you're not writing really good sheets and you're not referring back to the documentation and you're not figuring out how to do this, then you're not going to be able to retain those people, because it's not just about the buck. It's about going there as a professional and wanting to feel like you are a professional and being able to not look like you're a number or you're ground through and asking to basically do things for free or not doing things properly. Okay. So, you asked me to throw a few things together, and, I need to look at the same thing with my insurance companies. So back to the manufacturers or back to an insurance company. How many insurance companies are just too taxing on my admin for the gross profit that I'm making on those particular companies?
Yep.
There's been a number of people I work with that have decided they're best off. Their business partners weren't necessarily in a partnership, so they have severed that relationship, and it didn't hurt nearly as much as they thought it was. Those are obviously tough decisions to make. And lastly, continuously going in there and looking to how you can improve, and then marketing. Many people, when they're busy, don't think about marketing. Many of us that are a little bit older are still using a lot of the same marketing tactics, and we haven't went out there and looked at other ways to be able to spread that. But if you're not putting 2 to 3% of that overhead is not going towards marketing, and I just saw a marketing guru pop right up here on the screen.
Boom! It's timing.
But if you're not setting aside that 2 to 3% of your business to try to continue to market towards those vehicles that are most profitable.
I like
and
that.
quit trying to schedule. Just to close this thing up, I live in Vegas. I go down on the strip occasionally, not very often, but I see all these beautiful people all lined up around these velvet ropes to be able to go into these clubs. And then I see somebody pull the rope back in front of the line and usher some people in. I will guarantee you they don't have a Groupon coupon in their back pocket to be able to make that. They are a profitable person to go into those clubs. Why are you scheduling non-profitable or less profitable jobs in front of those jobs that are most profitable? Quit trying to fix everything. Quit trying to cram everything in the way you've always done it. Look towards profit. It's not a dirty word, and fix them right. That's my message for the day. But I have a ton of people that they're bordering right on that 20% line, and I have some that are up as high as 55, and are also, if they're not growing, and you either got to grow your sales or you got to grow your business. So the ADAS you talked about, the glass you talked about, the mechanical out there, all of those are other facets and ways to either add shops or add different profit centers to make that work. So there you go. That would be the first time I ever finished a deal on you on time. So I'm gonna
we're going to use that, the red velvet rope effect. We're going to use that, Ron. Another thing I'm stealing from Ron, changing 10% and calling my own. Ron, thank you for everything you've done for me and everything you've done for our community. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks brother.
everybody.
Glad to have you here. All right.